Welcome to the Comics News Wire, where we get our news from the comics newsroom found at comicbookadvocates.com. This show is anchored by Mr. Anderson, who is the unboxable, advocating creator known as the Indie Comics Devil, who will tempt you with his devilish tales of fetish, monsters, and more. Join him and his co-anchors as they give you the comics news coming off the wire. This show is brought to you in association with...
At Geek Insider, we foster relationships with those in the geek sphere so we can give our audience the insider view of entertainment, tech, and more.
ComicBookAdvocates.com is the global digital Comic-Con, but it's more than that. And you can be more too. Be more than just a fan. Become an advocate for comics like ComicBookAdvocates.com is for their creators, for their crowdfunding, for the very books they're creating, because we love comics. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Comics Brunch. I'm trying to run around and get everything done right now in the background. We will be going live at 11:11 from now on, so stay tuned with that. JD's joining us. We'll go around the room and introduce everybody.
Where do you want to start?
You.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I am Meredith Loughran, and I am the associate editor over at Geek Insider. I am also the project coordinator for Indie Event, which is happening in November, but I can talk about that later. I'm going to pass the baton to Jameis.
Hi, I'm Jameis Shokum, host of Webcomics Reviews and Interviews. Good morning, all.
And JD.
Good morning, everyone. My name is JD Calderon. I'm the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles. Currently on Indiegogo.
All right.
So, thank you so much.
And Rob.
Hey, wow, you guys don't do anything to introduce yourselves, do you?
Well, no, we did that on purpose. You know, just a quick intro, and then we're going to get into it. We can talk about that later and expand.
This is like Sunday brunch. I feel like we're on the news bar. You're like, I'm great comics. Let's go. Whoa.
All right, Rob, set the pace for us. Set the pace then.
Back in 1978, I was born. It was a warm August night. Since then, it's been nothing but trouble.
You're killing me, Rob. You're killing me. No, but go ahead and quickly introduce yourself as well.
I am an advocate for comics. I've loved comics my whole life. My dad introduced me, but I couldn't read, so I kind of gave up on it for a while. Learned about the X-Men as a cartoon and wanted to know more about the X-Men because they were freaks just like me. And, well, it turned out I couldn't get another cartoon, so I had to go get a comic book and learn to read. So I took a dictionary on the left side, on the right side I had the comic, and I got to work. So that is it. That's how I got into comics. I hope you guys love comics as much as me, so we can talk about it and have some fun today. This is just meant to be like a sit back, just kind of enjoy. We decided to make it part of CNW, which by default makes it part of Indie Vault, makes it part of Geek Insider. The reason we don't play the Indie Vault intro is we're changing it up. I'm trying to get a few things changed in. As soon as we get it, they will be part of the intro as well. We just don't have the new one. Some changes, some programming things that you understand. But they're going to be bringing us a lot of the mainstream market watch that we call it that we have going on. So that's it for now. Back to you, Meredith.
Well, I just wanted to say that I sent out a link for Jody McPhee to join us, and Enes Eskander always has an open seat, so if she gets the message and she's available, she might be popping in as well. But you know what? I feel like I've missed something, and it was the voting that you had for news this week. I don't remember seeing it.
Oh, it's there. It's in our Comic Book Advocates Network group, actually.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to give a shout out to my good friend Corey James Crawford. He is tuning in. He's a good friend of mine from my college days, which was like a million years ago. Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Well, that's awkward. I hope her husband's not around. Just
He
awkward.
is. He is. Well, you know what? It's kind of funny, because with as much work as I do online with everybody, I consider you all my work husbands, and my husband's fine with that because he's got a lot of work ex-wives.
I don't want to see the divorce.
Nah, I've met her husband. Her husband's cool.
Yeah.
He's the type of dude who wouldn't get jealous and just be like, eh. So
Yeah, he's not getting rid of me, the poor guy.
I wasn't referring to getting rid of him.
Oh my goodness. And we're off the rails already. Let's invite Jody in here. Hi, Joe. You want to introduce yourself real quick? Good
Work
morning.
husbands. Why all of a sudden I feel like this is like a episode of
Three's Company?
Jerry Springer?
yeah. Okay. Hello everybody. I am Joe D. McPhee, president of Agency Studios, the writer and creator of Amazonia, AWF, and Primetime Saturday Night. And when I heard the whole thing about work husbands, I'm thinking about SVU all of a sudden because they used that exact line in Law and Order SVU for some reason. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Oh,
we
yeah.
can hear you.
I just don't know. I don't think anyone knew what to do with that after you brought up SVU. Everyone's like, not touching that one. That's not me. I'm not talking about 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, wow. I don't know. I'm a big SVU fan, so that's the reason why I recognized it.
Are you excited that there's going to be that spinoff in 2021?
Yes and no. Yes and no, because I don't care too much for that particular character, but he was overdue for his own series. I can say that much.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad to see him. For those who don't know, Stabler's coming back with his own show.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can see all the stuff that happened over the weekend. We'll be covering this starting tomorrow on the CNW. We're getting to our poll that Meredith had talked about. So 4 of them get chosen by you guys. 1 of them gets chosen by me. Here's our poll. See, I told you, Meredith. You never forget about the poll.
I don't know where I've been this week. I know I've been busy, so I guess I've been kind of on a hamster wheel. You're going 100 miles a minute and getting nowhere.
Oh, I know that feeling. I almost killed myself coming into the show, like before we had the intros. So the intros are going on. I'm like, Meredith, I just have to run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. So I run over to the thing and I'm like, okay, I gotta come back. Switch. I try to come out of the room. I forgot I've been cleaning the house. I almost slipped and fell and broke my head open. I'm stumbling to the computer. I'm like, damn it, I can't even get my pants on right now. I'm trying to press buttons. That's been my week. In an example of my week, it's been not being able to pull up your pants and get things done without killing yourself. Imagine how awkward it would be to be just found. What the hell is this guy doing?
Are you supposed to wear pants on this show?
I hope not.
Yeah.
Randy made this rule about sleeves. I thought just pants were like a no-brainer. That's it. I'm going naked. I'll be right back, guys. I didn't know it.
Hey, as far as I know, we're only seen from the waist up. So
Hold on.
Don't stand up. That's all.
Just imagine how awkward it would be. Like just you. Oh man, my back hurts.
we've seen the commercials.
Oh man, yeah. But so that's my week, Meredith, in a nutshell. It's been a crazy week.
That could be a pretty fun kind of game show. It's like if we all wore like our boxers and we had to guess like the design or something like that. That would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
It could be really bad.
Saturday Night Live skit from back in the 70s. Sit on it. And the whole object of the game show that they read the spoof of, the contestants were like, you didn't see them from like the waist down, and they would bring in different objects and they had to sit on it to figure out what it was.
Oh, wow. Wow, the 70s was freaky.
Yes, they were.
I don't understand. It really hurts in my butt. No, you idiot. Don't stick it in your butt. That's wrong. Why would you put a cactus in your ass? That was a cactus?
No, what object was a statue of the Normandy invasion that somebody sat on? It was like, oh, it's really sticking me in this type of way. Wait a second. I think I know what it is. It's the Battle of Normandy. Correct answer. Like, how?
I'm going to find that on YouTube. I'm going out of my way to find that on YouTube. I want to.
Yeah, it's Saturday Night Live, and it was called, the game show was called Sit on It.
Oh man, I don't even know what to do with that right now. Just imagine the 2020 version of Sit on It. I feel like it's a human being because I feel a tongue.
No.
And it's Sunday morning. I hope everyone enjoyed the church services. You now have to go back and say that you watched this show because you just committed your first sin of the week. You're welcome. We got it out of your way because they all have to be nice. When you get back from church, you're trying so hard. Okay, I just did confession. I just had all that stuff. I'm going to behave. I'm going to behave. I'm going to behave. Oh wait, they sinned for me. Okay, I'm good now.
You're welcome.
That's what happens here. It's chaos and it's fun because what we don't do. The whole idea Meredith had was we don't get to hang out. We don't. I mean, they said that. Did anyone see Saturday Night Live's opening last night?
Unfortunately, no. So
Okay, I did. I tuned in. I like Saturday Night Live. Yes, I know their seasons aren't great, but there's still humor in it. I think things are funny, so I watch funny things. What I do is I get this thing called a DVR, and I record it so I can fast forward it when I don't like it. But the opening was funny, I have to admit. Then look, we're not going to talk about politics on this show. We know what's going on with the president. We all hope he gets better. We don't want to lose a president. That's not what's going on. So please don't make comments about that. That's not what this show is about. This show is about us having fun. The reason I'm bringing up Saturday Night Live and the way they opened it was Chris Rock said, he was like, remember when we used to do that thing? Yeah, we used to make plans. Remember how we used to do that? It was very true. Like, think about the last time you guys made plans to go do something with your friends. I live next to my sister, and we try not to see each other that often because we're worried about it. You know what I mean? My niece just turned 13 yesterday. There wasn't a big deal about it. There wasn't. And it's sad, and we've lost a lot. So a show like this can be so cool. And yes, we're planning to develop this show well beyond this particular time period. We are trying to get it so we can actually have this be a future show where we could be I could be at a con and Meredith could be running the board, or maybe she's at a con for Geek Insider and I'm home, or we have another, because we don't do anchors on this show particularly. We're all just basically guests because we're all just hanging out. But we'll have someone at a station to be able to do that. So there's a long-term value for a program like this. And what we did, for those who don't know, I canceled my Friday night show. I was doing a Friday night show, and of course I gave up the Devil's Advocate. A lot of this has to do with I'm a dad, and my son needs to go to sleep at certain hours because he's in school and all that. And when I was I'm sure JD saw this, the last Friday night show I didn't have the same energy. I'm like shooting Coca-Cola into my veins, trying to get any kind of sugar high I can get, eating ice cream, eating gummy bears. Nothing's getting me. As soon as that show was over, I was just in bed, asleep. I was done. And I was like, okay, I've hit that stage of life where I'm no longer cool. Because like my Saturday night was setting up my son, so he has a new setup for his toys and all that. And I cleaned the house because he was out with his mom. That was my Saturday night. Yes, I've gotten to that point of old where I woke up early this morning, grabbed my back. Oh, it hurts. Let me go see what's on the news. So that's the life I now live. I know you all want to be just like me, but what we used to do back when I was young, we had this show called Week Ended. And what we're doing is we're actually making it part of the Sunday brunch. So Sunday's Comics Brunch will now have Week Ended, which is what that screen up here is about. We're going to talk about different topics. And the topics are chosen by you, the viewing audience. And then I'll pick my top stories that'll show up on Geek Insider while we're doing the show today. And I've talked enough, so I'm going to pass it on. Here we go. And not a lot of people voted this weekend, but I'm not surprised considering the news cycle that was going on this weekend. I think people were really distracted by the news this weekend.
I was going to say too, Rob, and I don't know where the echo is coming from. But I don't think a lot of people know where to find comic book advocates, especially if you're a new listener. Head over to Facebook, look for Comic Book Advocates Network. Make sure that you give it a follow, and then you can also vote for what we post on the news.
We had 66 new people join just this week, so
Yeah.
be part of what is a growth, because we're trying to make this very interactive with the fans. We're trying to go back and forth. Should this be on Geek Insider or Comic Book Advocates? But Meredith is like, well, you're our comic book wing. Do comic book stuff there. I was like, okay, sure, makes sense. Why don't you just use logic? Fine. Have it your We'll be
Right?
logical.
Oh my God.
I know, right? All right. So our first news of the week, which I'm going to pass. And by the way, cursing is allowed on this show. So no one go, oh, Rob, I heard you curse. No, this isn't the news. This is informal. It's Sunday morning, so I probably won't drop an MFer. We probably won't talk about sticking things up your. Oh, wait, we already did that.
We already did that. Already covered. Thanks, Joe.
Joe, you're a bad influence. You're a bad influence, and I encourage you to be on every show from this point forward.
Okay.
I encourage that type of behavior. But yeah. So here we go. We're gonna head over to top story by 8 votes is Cat Dad and Supermom joins Scoot Comics. So
Congratulations, Rob.
Rob, no, that's Bobby Gregory.
Bobby Gregory.
Bobby Gregory. Really, I hear he's a handsome guy. I do. The word on the street is the dude is really handsome.
I keep telling Bobby Gregory that he needs to come back with a mohawk, but he's fighting that.
He never did a mohawk. He's a dad. Dads don't do mohawks.
Sure they do. And they have tats too.
Yeah, he does have tattoos. There's no way to hide those. I mean, he has tattoos. Yeah, similar ones to mine, as a matter of fact. But what do you guys think about Scoot Comics? Because it's also a big deal that let's just put it all together, because it's a huge week for Scout Comics. Because it wasn't just that, but they made that big announcement about their team up as well this week. So let's open up the floor to what Scout Comics is doing. For those who don't know, Scout also joined with, Meredith, help me out with the name.
Simon and Schuster.
No, that was last week. They did the media thing. Although that was last week, you're right.
That was last week.
But this week it was they teamed up with an LA firm, and I'm having trouble remembering their name.
Anybody else in the room? Help us out.
I'm trying to remember myself here.
Yeah, I remember the story. I don't remember the
Median or something like that. Mosaic. Here it is. So here we go.
All right, Mosaic.
Yeah, this is huge news for Scout, and it's a testament to what they're actually doing. So here we go.
Oh, is that the media thing where they're going to expand into like possibly television and things?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, they already have multiple. For those who don't know, Scout has a potential movie on the burner right now, and several television options going on right now. So Scout's making some moves. They're one of the. There we go. Michael was with me. He had it. Michael's the co-anchor of Fridays. Mosaic. I knew it was an M. I couldn't remember exactly what it was. But Mosaic. Yeah, man. Awesome news. Super excited about this one. But that's good for all comics, right?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you can actually have a little, have some serious fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now, I do have a question, and maybe I'll get some hate mail. All right, because I've been in on several discussions.
Oh, wait. I knew I was forgetting something. Yeah, it almost happened. We should have done this before the sitting on things. We definitely should have done this before the sitting on things.
Not my fault that you didn't run the PSA.
disclaimer.
Yeah, I didn't, because I almost killed myself and had to regain my.
Are we putting a disclaimer?
I put on my pants right, but I forgot to run this. Here we go.
Pantsless
Warning and disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this live feed are those of the guests, speakers, and or hosts, and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs, official policies, ethics, or positions of the content providers, advertisers, additional hosts, and or guests. hosting sites, groups, or entities attached to this programming. Viewer discretion is advised. That goes for the butt stuff too.
Oh boy, oh boy. All right, so here is my thought on this. I've been on several discussions about comic books, how people who create comic books are doing it for the love of comic books. And then there are people who create comic books as a gateway into movies or television series and things like that. And so I know, Rob, you were like, it's not storyboarding. Will something like this kind of tip the scales a little bit, where people are now creating with the hope that they're going to get into Scout, with the hope that they're going to make a television series or something? Will that become the new trend where it is actually storyboarding? And you can send hate mail to me. I'm just asking the question.
I will say this. That's an interesting question that you have asked. And it's funny because I asked it when I was asked to do an interview for Geek Insider recently this week. We had a special interview with Mary, The Adventures of Mary Shelley's creator, Brea Grant. And I asked her a similar, are you guys seeing that? I just realized I didn't check my note. See, I'm doing something, being all smart, and I forgot to screen share. Like an idiot. So let's try this again like I'm smart. Mary, The Adventures of Mary Shelley's. And there she is, Brea Grant. You might notice her. She was in Heroes and a few other great television shows. She's made her rounds around some sci-fi stuff. Great personality. By the way, great book. That was fantastic. I'm not usually someone who likes like horror and monster stuff. She did an amazing job with this book. I was blown away by it. Blown away by everything that she was doing there. So I suggest that you guys go out and get yourself a copy today. So here we go. She asked that question, and she said she did see a lot of people try to run to comics, but she feels like they've kind of gotten rid of themselves by not learning the craft, not really having the energy, and like you said, treating it like a storyboard. Meredith was in an interview with me where it was a panel discussion. I think it was one she was running, where I famously chewed someone out for referring to comics as storyboarding. I still have no regrets. I still use every word. I think it's insulting when you call a comic book, and Meredith is starting to see that, where she's working on her own book and sees the difference. For the credit of this, comics came first, storyboards came second. That's historical fact. Storyboards are basic ideas. So you can storyboard out a comic book, but you could never release that as a comic. You'd have to go back and add detail. Then there's a big difference. You know what a storyboard doesn't do? And this is what every great writer does. And you guys can, I open this up to all you because I don't like talking this much. I really don't. It's what happens between the panels that separates a true comic book creator and artist versus someone just making storyboards or just coming into comics and not understanding it. There is a moment of what you're implying that you set the reader's mind up to fill in the gaps. Sort of like a television show too, when you go off to the next scene, there's nothing. You're just expecting to have the next scene fill you in. So they don't really talk to you about, but comics, there's that implication between the two things because we see action moves and your mind begins to make the movie in your own head. And a storyboard doesn't do that. A storyboard will literally break down the scenes and it's all about action shots. It's about this is the angle we want. This is how we want to do it. This, and that. You can't do that in a comic. You'll lose 6 of those boards. So for the record, a storyboard will always be longer than its counterpart that is a comic book. Mm-hmm. All right, I've talked enough. JD, you're up.
All right. Well, I was just wondering, when you get your big deal on Cartoon Network, is this going to be the your cover?
Who? What am I getting?
Your cover when you get your big deal at Cartoon Network. When we get Cat Dad and Supermom.
That's Bobby Gregory. You mean?
oh, right. Okay, yeah. I keep forgetting.
I can text him if you want. I have his phone number.
You have his phone number? Yeah, we got plenty of video on him too.
Yeah, supposedly. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever been caught in the wild yet. But
gotcha.
Yeah, but the question was basically, with a deal like this that Scout is doing, and that was my squeaky dog over there. With a deal like this, and it's huge. It is really huge, and it opens up a lot of opportunity. Does that tip the scales for creators to go, oh, you know what? Maybe I want to create a comic book with the idea that it's going to be picked up. That hope.
I think it depends on the generation of the creator because there are a lot of different creators. A lot of people who are just coming in just looking to make money, right? So you're gonna have those people. You're gonna have those people looking to just make a quick buck. They don't really care how they do it. I always say get a job on Wall Street, but they don't listen. They think it's easier to just create something that they could just tag their name onto and just move forward. They just really think it's easy, but that's usually the bottom line for some of these creators, and then usually not that good, and they're usually easy to shake off. But you're always going to have creators who are coming in from a purer sense where they just want to make comics. And I mean, that's where I come from. I know that's where Rob comes from. And I'm pretty sure that Joe and I don't know about James, but, Meredith, where that's where we're coming from. We want to create comics. Anything that comes after that, fine. But that's on the back end.
And Joe, you were shaking your head pretty emphatically.
Yeah, I'm emphatic that no, it's not going to have any impact whatsoever because the one thing that people have to always remember is that even when you create something, you have to become a household name before people recognize what you're doing. And for you to make that leap to a different medium, you have to establish, and that takes years to establish a good comic book or a good comic story to even be considered for other mediums. So no, it won't have an impact. Will people come in thinking that? Yes. But they don't realize, it's going to take several years of development of a comic book to even get to the people to become a mainstay, let alone into movies and television shows and all the other stuff. Unless you're coming in with a big bag of money, and when I say a big bag of money, I talk about millions of dollars, where you can say, hey, I'm going to put this whole big marketing campaign to do all eyes on me. No, that happen.
James?
I'm not so sure. It's basically we're starting to see a lot of times when you basically are trying to do things in various media for one particular project at a time. And a lot of the kids nowadays are actually thinking that ahead of time. They're not just thinking in terms of this is going to be a comic and that's it. They're also looking at the potential where it's going to go down, 5-10 years down the road. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, it's not going to take a couple of years, but that's definitely going to be something that they're going to be thinking in terms of, who's going to be casting these roles later on. What's going to need to change to go from comic to movie? And let's get real. We know there's going to be a lot of changes to go from the comic to the movie. Just like what happened with the MCU. A lot of those characters are pretty much unrecognizable. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that I think this could actually be a major thing, especially if they figure out how to plan it just right, strategize a little bit ahead of time. But but definitely not going to be something that's going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and a 20-year plan.
Right.
What you're saying is 20 years on the line, as opposed to coming right into the industry. If you're coming right into the industry, you can't be thinking about that stuff. You have to be thinking about how to make this character recognizable amongst all that are reading here. How to make that character look cool for people to be interested in what you're trying to write. And that's a major, to me, that's a major difference between thinking coming in with the aspect of, oh, I'm going to make this a movie, as opposed to I just want to make a great comic book. If I concentrate on making a great comic book, the rest will come later on down the line. As opposed to, I made this great movie, let me convert it into a comic book, everybody's going to flock to it. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you'll never see the movie to comic book.
No,
It's been tried. Captain Justice is my personal favorite in that regard. That was that show with John Ritter, where he basically was a superhero. He went from the superhero universe to a regular universe, the normal universe, and they've tried that a couple of times. I don't think you'll ever see the situation where it succeeded as a movie and then was able to translate to a comic all that well. It's been tried a couple of times, and
I don't know. We have Star Wars, Predator, Aliens. We have a bunch of different, things that have come down from movies that have been successful comics. The Star Wars line through Marvel started off spectacularly. People still say the run is still really good. They sell a lot of books. And there's a lot of that stuff we don't see on our end through Diamond, because a lot of it goes to the Disney parks and they sell tons of those stuff. I've been to those parks and people just walk away with scads of those things. I mean, and to Joe's point, there's been plenty of properties that we've never heard of that were comics that have been turned into movies. Men in Black famously was a comic book over Marvel. Who heard of that thing? That thing was
not Marvel. Not
well,
Marvel.
no, Marvel
Malibu.
eventually purchased it.
They
started in Malibu.
They started. Was it Malibu or Caliber? One of them.
One of them.
Malibu.
Yeah. Malibu. Okay, yeah. Because I just wanted to be sure. Like it started somewhere before it became a movie.
You got.
And my personal favorite to add in here is Road to Perdition.
Right, that's another one. Yes, who heard of that book before it became a movie? So there's plenty of properties that you don't hear of, but people who have vision in those other areas come in and they say, you know what, I could do something with that as a film or as a cartoon, so on and so forth. So I mean, and the thing is, I think the thing with Joe, I think what you're talking about is generational. Like we're a little bit older, so we think about things a little bit differently. But those young cats that are coming in, they're like, nah, man. They're like, no, that's gonna go on. That's gonna be on Netflix. That's gonna be on this. That's gonna be this. They're not thinking the way we think, man. They're a little bit faster than us. They're younger. They're hungrier. Their dreams are in another galaxy, man. We're a little bit of a step behind.
Well, excuse me, the generation that's coming in now, I mean, they've only known the internet. We grew up where there wasn't any, so everything was just I call it like the analog lives. It's like we didn't have the digital age. We kind of stepped into it as adults, and we see our choices, and I think that allows us to make those choices to go, I want to be a little bit more traditional, whether it's for writing and stuff like that. I know a lot of people kind of our age who still like to draw. They like to get the ink on their hands. Whereas there are people who are much younger who are like, oh, that's so ancient, and they go strictly with digital. And I think we're going to get to a point at where it seems like a very lost art or a very rare art. And at some point that's going to be very, very valuable.
I will say two points to that. First off, the fact that social media is so important to this generation is actually hurting them. So I do encourage you, if you have someone who's younger in your life, remind them how unimportant social media really is. And even if you're an adult right now, guys and gals out there, just realize likes aren't the same thing as real world stuff. Hearts and that, it's just all algorithm stuff. Stop putting yourself in an echo chamber. There's a great thing on Netflix right now that talks about social media and how dangerous it is for everybody. I really think this weekend, especially if you guys were on social media this weekend, it's an embarrassing weekend to be a creator. Not because of what you did, but because how many creators we know said things that, I mean, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to be part of the industry right now, considering, and I'll be honest, it wasn't a lot of main tier guys. It was a lot of the indie guys and gals out there saying some awful things. I'm not even going to repeat them. I was very embarrassed by that. So please remember, social media is not hanging out with your friends when you're drunk. This is something that's not going to go away. A lot of you have said things and understand some of those things are against the law that you're saying. You can't actively say that you want, and I'll just put it this way, you can't actively say you want a sitting president to die a slow and torturous death. You can't do that. Is against the law. You have now just earned yourself an FBI handler. Mm-hmm. And I'm not kidding. It's not actually a joke. Even mentioning it right now, I guarantee you they're going to watch this video now just to see what we're talking about. And they'll watch it from the point I said it to see what I was doing. They'll hear me saying this and they'll go, okay, he was talking about not doing it. And I do stress, just understand you cannot hate someone for everything they do and then act just like them and think it's okay. That is not the way forward. And not at all. It's the wrong way. So please, social media, especially you young kids. The older ones I'm very disappointed in. But like Meredith said, the younger ones, they're so, just think about the life they've lived. I need a like. I need to put up this picture on Instagram so someone can like me. We're inflating likes on there versus real human interaction. I see people all the time. I go out to dinner and my family will be on the phone. I'm the annoying person while I'm on here. I can actually be on my phone the entire time and talk to you all. It's the one benefit of ADHD. I can carry on 3 conversations and still do something. So I have that ability. So yeah, go ahead, Meredith.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I am so glad that I didn't grow up with the internet, because if all the stupid stuff that I did when I was younger was out there in the ethos, you know, forget it, you know.
I'll be honest though, I don't think as a kid I would have been dumb enough to film the stuff I was doing.
But
You know, and it doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be you.
No, I wouldn't have hung out.
It's everybody else that's out there.
I wouldn't have hung out with dudes and chicks who were filming shit. You'd have seen me in some videos laughing at people, guaranteed. But like dumb stuff, like even now, here's everyone says that that's older. I used to say that too until one day I realized, wait, I'm 40 and I don't film any of the dumb stuff I do still to this day. Why the hell would I have done it when I'm younger? I was smart. I avoided surveillance cameras. I mean, never mind. We're gonna second point I had. The second point I had to make this morning was the fact that you know, we're the first generation, me and JD. And everyone that's coming after us, and even Meredith, we would be part of the first generation of comic book creators who wanted to be comic book creators. We're the first generation that chose to try to make comics. Understand a lot, not to say every one of them, like, you know, Eisner loved making comics. He was a rare exception. But Stan Lee, that's not his real name. He was Stan Liebowitz. Liebowitz, yeah. He's saving his name to write the great American novel. He was embarrassed by comics at first. Neil Adams probably made more in his commercial career than he did in comic books, but he stayed out of a passion for comics. He's one of the rare guys who really inspired this next generation. We want to make comics, and we are very passionate about it, and that's where Image comes from. That's where all that comes from, that independent spirit. And for the last 10 years, we've seen these Hollywood scumbags come in and talk about storyboarding. Oh, I'm just going to make a comic so I can make a movie. And it's like, that's not how it works. I don't think you understand it. To JD's point, you know, just because some people, oh, I never saw this, that's an overnight success. Yeah, and what's the joke in comics, JD?
Well, yeah, it took me 20 years to get to that overnight success.
Right. It took me 20 years to become an overnight success. And people don't see that. People don't see us pounding and grounding. I don't know if Meredith, did you get to look at the comic I sent you yesterday?
Yes.
So you saw the motion of it's roughly based on me. It's all about my life, but I never, as a narrator, I never write it's about my life. But you can tell it's about my life. And it showed my journey even over a decade of creating comics. And, you know, now there'll be people who, you know, will try to congratulate on the success you have and be like, oh, that just happened so quickly. And it's like, what did you just say to me? What did you just say? I will drown you in water. Say that again. Because they don't know. They don't know all that energy that JD puts in. And Joe's celebrating 10 years.
10 years, Amazonia.
JD's got more pages than Marvel has creative pages in 2020 created right now. Hey, that's a dig, Marvel. That's a deliberate dig. Do better. Do better, Marvel. We're watching. Resurrect that, Marvel. No, a kid, and you know, as a fan, we're very excited about the comics. And I always say this: when I rip into Marvel, it's because I love X-Men. I keep up. I pay attention. I do the news. You know, everyone knows I'm reading these things. I'm going to probably get the Marvel app for more comic book reading. I'm still trying to catch up on indie books. Here's the truth about indie, and this is for the reviewers in the room, and then we'll get back to the main topic. How many times when you guys review something, you can't do it publicly because you'd be assassinating someone? I know that has happened to me over 400 times now.
Yep.
Yeah, they tell a kid, would you review this? And I'm like, to you and you only. Oh, no, negative will be good. Not the negative I can. Like, and Meredith knows. Geek Insider wanted me to do assessments. And I did that one assessment, and it was honest. It was fair. I could back everything up I said, pointed out a lot of mistakes, but it made me feel so horrible as a human being to do it publicly. And I was like, I don't want to do this. And I told Meredith, I just don't like the format. We're going to have to pause it. And she's like, okay. And I brought it back in a quicker New York Minute format. Very quick. Did I like it? So realistically, you know, when you sat down for Siskel and Ebert, All you wanted to know is if they liked it. The rest of it, they were kind of funny talking to each other, but you could care less about really them. She didn't know who they were. You just want to know if they were saying to see it or not. And you wanted to agree or disagree with them. You only watched that show to agree or disagree with them. They never decided whether you were going to do it or not, because most fans will pick up a movie or a comic book on their own based on a trailer, unless their friends are telling them otherwise. So, but I don't.
I was going to say, everybody in this room, I'm sure you've done reviews.
Yeah, everyone in the room has.
Yeah.
Everyone.
What's your review?
What do you do when you have a book or a film, whatever it is that you're reviewing? What do you do when you absolutely see everything's wrong with it? What do you do with it?
Tell it straight out that these are the problems with it. I mean, I'm always looking for this. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm trying to always find something positive, even in the worst stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I see so much incredibly bad stuff.
You keep that one-on-one with the creator, or do you make that public?
Gee, what's my podcast again? Yes, I go public. But the problem is being the kind of reviews I do. I have to be diplomatic. I can't just simply say 100% this sucks, this is why. I've always got, like I said, I've got to look for that one golden nugget part in there that says this is a really cool thing. This doesn't mean, of course, that I'm basically going to be, hyping that one thing. I have no problem nailing a comic. I've done it a couple of times. I'll go through, this is why, this is where, and if it's something that's really negative, I go from a straight review to a this is how it could be better type of situation. Go do a constructive criticism type of thing. Mm-hmm. Go through, these are the problems you're having with the characters. This is how you could fix it. This is the problem with the artwork. It looks, here's some really good stuff about the artwork, but here's how you need to really work on type of things.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Jay.
Yeah, but it's just straight up, like I said, it's just you've got to find something positive because everybody has something that's really cool about the comic in there somewhere. It's just sometimes you've got to go through a lot of dreck in order to find that one really good thing.
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to find. JD, go ahead. Do you have anything to piggyback on that?
Yeah, I know. I mean, for myself, all the books I tend to review, I've purchased. So these are books that I've actively bought, and I read them and so on and so forth. Now, here's my main rule. If I don't like it, I don't review it or I don't put it on my show. And that's the other thing. I don't really do reviews. I do suggestions. Mm-hmm. These are books I suggest people to buy, to read, to enjoy. You understand? I don't necessarily do reviews for the sake of like, I'm reviewing a book. No, I if I have it on my show, I do a suggestion. Now, if I know you personally, I will not review your book. I will give you a shout out. I will be like, here's this book. There's a person I know, buy their book because I like them, not necessarily because I like the book. You understand? And that's just to keep it diplomatic. And I mean, because I run across a lot of stuff. It's just like, Jesus, why? You should have. Why didn't you call me before?
Let me follow that up, JD. Have you lost friends? I have. From
Probably. I don't know. None of them publicly.
No, not public, but the private critiques I've given, I have lost friends over. They might see me on my friends list, but they won't talk to me again. They'll never reach out to me again.
Well, Joe, what about you? Do you have any feedback about that? Like, what do you do with the really bad?
I have tons of feedback. In the private chat was video that I did was the very first creator that asked me to do a review as an editor. I ripped into that book nicely, but the thing about it is that I also told them how to fix it. It's not about, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. The thing that they don't like is, my stuff is good enough. It's like, no, it's not. This is how you could fix it to make it even more powerful. If you would have took a moment here to develop this, that could have been a whole story within itself, and it changed the whole dynamic of that issue on its head. And they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, my artwork is great. The story was, had a smooth flow. It's like, but you got plot holes in your story. People keep forgetting that there's words in there. It's visual, but it has words. And your dialogue plays as much as part of that story as the visual. So you may have visuals that are on point, and you may have visuals give you misconceptions of what you're trying to tell. And I have people come to me after I do a review and they pull me over to the side and someone was like, hey, you were fair and honest, but you missed the subtlety here. I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't miss that subtlety because of this, and this. And we get into that conversation. It's like, oh, I never thought about that. Or this was explained here. It's like, you have to understand, I go issue by issue. My job as a reviewer is to say, is this issue good enough to keep my attention to make me get the next one? I don't say this is a good comic. I say I'm more along the lines. It's like at this point, I'm ready to put this book down. I'm not certain if I want to continue on with the storyline.
Yeah.
Not to say that you're a bad writer or anything like that. What you're doing in this one particular issue may have turned off people story-wise.
I think that's very important as far as comics too, because with those single issues, especially if it's within a story arc across multiple copies. And forgive me, I am a noob when it comes to comics, so I might not have all the terminology. But when you have a story arc and you have several books that are covering that, if you have a really bad issue, you might kill off your readers who are supporting you up to that point. So I mean, when it comes to listening to reviews, the motivation behind most reviewers that I know of is not to destroy you or kill your dreams. It is to make it better. And the reason behind that, if you can get past the butthurt of that and say, hey, okay, I see where you're coming from. I'm going to try and make improvements or not. They have the choice to ignore it too. But then they see later on, they see that ripple effect of maybe not listening to the advice that is well-meaning. I don't think anybody in this room and many reviewers that I know we're not jerks. We don't want to go out there and destroy you. We don't want to see you fail. We want to see you succeed. And so when you ask for an honest opinion, be open to it.
Well, I also think that what Joe was saying, if you have to explain it, you fucked up. It's just that simple. And I know that in my career. When someone misses a joke, then I screwed up. Or they didn't. Some jokes are very subtle. Like, okay, I have a book about fetish. Meredith has read it. JD, I don't think's ever read it. But I know Meredith has. And I think I've explained this to Meredith in the past for that. There's a very particular reason I have a color scheme I have for my book. And you'll have to excuse me. I'm actually in the middle of cleaning. So I don't have one out right now just because I've been rearranging stuff. Because we're getting ready for possible hurricanes again. So it's hurricane prep time again. Starting to put things back in boxes because just in case we get blown away, my stuff is in totes. So I wrote the entire fetish book on vanilla colored pages. No one got the joke, except for I think one person pointed it out. But that was okay because it didn't affect the story. What Joe is talking about are things that weren't like an Easter egg. These were definite, like, oh, no, you have to understand that was explained. No, it wasn't. You just know. You're just aware of it. You're a reader. I'm a reader. I'm a smart guy. And I've told people, hey, that tail is going into the wrong place. And I'm going to take off my glasses because I'm going to slam my head into a keyboard after I say this because this is what it was told to me, that it will look better when it's printed. As if a printing process was going to somehow magically move a bubble's tail.
Yeah.
I almost had. The last time I gave that person advice, by the way, that was it. Tell me it looks better. And you know what? That was the first, but not the last time I've heard it. Mother effers, it does not look better in print, your mistakes. It's still a mistake, and it's still there. Like, I have people who go, oh, well, I didn't really have an editor. It's not a big deal. People get that spelling mistakes happen. Yeah, when you're giving it to me for free, absolutely. When you give me something for free, sure, spelling mistakes are okay. If you charge me for your book,
I can't believe how many people don't run a basic spell check.
Oh, I do. I've read 500 indie books and 400 and like probably 50 I haven't been able to review. That is and it's, some of it is just, hey, I have a reputation. I can't put this out. You have some minor mistakes. Fix it, give it back to me, and I'll review it.
And what gets to me are the excuses why they think doing the spelling errors are acceptable.
Yeah, because like I was saying, when I tell them to send it back to me, they don't want to make the changes. It's just that simple. They don't want to have to pay the letterer to redo it because they didn't edit. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, because again.
Yeah, I'm looking at but it was so edgy. I'm trying to be so on the edge, or I'm trying to be street, or I'm trying to be, one of the new kids, or I'm trying to be popular, or straight up. If you have spelling errors, there's absolutely no excuse, especially not with a basic freaking spell check. People.
You know what's really insulting, and Meredith will know exactly what I'm talking about. She's seen this submission. I had reviewed a submission where someone had given us a story as a throwback issue. I'm going to do like Silver Age comics, and their idea of going back and doing Silver Age comics was having mistakes inside of it, because that's what the Silver Age did. They had mistakes, so it's okay. I have mistakes. The Silver Age also put out how many comics a week, JD? Like, they were just burning them out, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Silver Age was, you understand, this creator who takes 6 months to make this book is adding mistakes when they put their book out in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
But he's doing I'm respecting them, I'm throwing back. No, if they had 6 months, that book would have been so much better. Jack Kirby's art was the way it was because Jack Kirby could do 52 issues in 1 month. And I'm being a little facetious, but not very. He could just pound out art. And he understood, if I can give them art that they understand, then they can be entertained with it, and we can make another story. I can get more and more and more stuff out. No one worked as hard as Jack Kirby did in comics. No one since Jack Kirby's worked as hard as he did. Got to give that man love and respect. And when he slowed down, he did beautiful art. You saw it. He could do it. But he had, and it's like, you can either have it quick, fast, or cheap. You can't have all three all at the same time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was doing 3 to 6 pages a day. At 6 pages a day, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Colored. He colored his own stuff, didn't he?
No. It was just pencils.
Just art?
Just
okay.
Pencils. Just pencils. Yeah. But it was still 6 pages a day. That nobody does that these days. Barely anybody can do 2. Forget
2,
6.
1. Get them 1. Just get an artist.
Shoot 1, yeah.
Especially, and this is not a dig, but a lot of American artists are not as quick as the foreign artists. Being a writer, having dealt with both, I can tell you right now that is just the truth. If I tell a guy from Italy, from Mexico, I need this page in 24 hours, they'll get it to me colored. I tell an American artist that, I can't do that. I can't. No, it's not possible. But that same American artist who's running behind schedule with me and wants to go on vacation suddenly gets me 3 pages in 3 days. I know what you're doing. I respect it. I understand it. You're pacing yourself. You have other things in life, and I get it. But I know how quick comics can be made. I do know when you're motivated what you really can do. I'm just putting it out there, and some pages, yes, take forever. If you have like the interstellar battle, Star Galactica fight going on in the background with all the imagery, that's going to take a minute. I get it. But when you have talking heads moment, that's not a hard page, guys. No, you have to understand, I was making the jukebox so genuine. It took forever to get the jukebox just right. Look at the lettering on the jukebox.
Don't get me started on that. People hate drawing backgrounds. It's like with the jukebox, it's like, yeah, that's a foreground element. Where's the rest of the background? Where's the wall that is off of? Where's the electric outlet that's supposed to be plugged into?
Yeah. And the funny thing was, I didn't even put a jukebox in there. You added the jukebox. I didn't want a jukebox. That was you.
Oh, so lucky. You guys have it easy. Jeez.
And to James,
remember, you guys are doing print comics. I'm doing web comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got all these people that are trying to do all these neat edgy things, and it's just
Remember, kids, if you're paying for it, it's your call. Do not accept anything else. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you started. I told an artist this flat out. I'm like, I didn't know you started working for free. And they're like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I was like, well, you talking back like you have a say in this. I was like, I'm paying you. We do it this way. I want you to understand that. I want your feedback. I want you to feel like this is yours. But as long as I'm paying full price and your quote, then it will be my way. I got that book done. Let me tell you. That ended, like, that was the last time I heard a dumb argument. Because sometimes it is just that. Because, and it's not a dig on them. It's a creative vision. And when you're a writer and you're paying for it, it's your creative vision. Because you're now the producer. If you're working with an artist and they're not getting paid, put your thumb in your mouth and chew on your finger, because they have every right to have as much input as you do. And I want writers to understand that, because it's a two-way street. You know, of course, someone will clip to 10 seconds before that. See, Rob doesn't respect artists. No, if I'm paying for it, I expect something. If I go to Burger King, I don't want someone to bring out like the tofu burger and go, well, I know you ordered the Whopper, but this is better. This is better. I even made it fancy. The ketchup was drawn like a dress on the outside. No, fucker, give me the Whopper.
But to James's point, though, look, now we all work digitally. It's easy to fix these things. You know, you can just go in, open up whatever Photoshop, whatever InDesign, whatever program you're in, and change a few things. It's not hard. You know, it's not hard. I've had people, just recently, someone said, did a review of one of my books, and they said there was some grammar errors. I was like, there are no damn grammar errors in that book. And I went back, I was like, oh shit. And I went back and I fixed all those pages, and I gave them to Daphne, and she updated all those files. So all the new files will not have those issues. So
that still doesn't address the point that I made. If an editor was there in the very beginning, that stuff would not have been there in the first place.
Actually, editors don't catch everything.
I know that, but they do. That's what their job is. It's supposed to manage and catch errors before it gets out to anybody else.
Yeah, but a lot of times, and I'll say this, and this is a huge mistake people are making, and I cannot stress this enough. And as an editor, if you're watching this, you have to do this. As an editor, you have to see it before it goes to print. Whether they paid you or not, shut your mouth and make sure you look at that print copy, because it's your name on that page that people are going to look down on. Because it won't be the creator. Because the first thing they'll do, they'll open the book. Let's see who did this. Rob wrote it. Okay, I know he's dyslexic as shit. So I know that he must have gotten an editor, right? So, oh yeah, they got an editor. Here's his editor, or here she is. And then they'll go, okay, so let me read the book. And if they see a mistake, they're never going to think it was my mistake. They're always going to think it was the editor's mistake. So you have to go back. And as a creative person, whether it's the artist running the book, because there are artists that run the book, not the writer. I've been brought on to be a writer on some books. It's not my book. So whoever is in charge, who's ever sending the print file to there, should offer it to the editor. And I remember I sent it to the editor once, and they were like, oh, well, I did all the edits. I told you all the edits. I was like, why would I want to look at it again? This was a newer editor. And I was like, oh, I don't care, because I hired you. It's your name with all the mistakes now, not mine. And they were like, can I see the file? Yeah, because think about that. Like, you told me the mistakes to make, but if you don't ask to see the follow-up, what if I missed one of the things you said? Or what if you still miss something? As an editor, because I'm a letterer too. So I get to letter my books to the very end, and I can make changes. Because I know, JD, you letter your own stuff, right?
Yeah, I had to letter my own stuff, yeah.
Sometimes you suddenly see something that you didn't see until that last time you do it, and you're like, oh, no, whoa. And you call up your editor, and the first thing you say is, I'm paying you now. The first thing I caught this. What do you think of this? And the editor will be like, "Oh, good catch. Yeah, let's fix that." And you'll play with your editor. You need an editor like that. An editor, and I'll give a shout out to Chuck. Chuck is one of those dudes. He edits to the very last second. I could send him the file and be like, "Dude, here it is." He doesn't even ask. He looks it over. He looks at, okay, cool. Although, there was a business card once that I asked him to do, and my dyslexia got the best of me, and I knew it was my dyslexia getting to me, and I was like, Chuck, just look it over. Are you sure it looks right? And I can't tell, but my mind is telling me something's wrong. Like, you're good, you're good. 3 months later, an autistic kid comes up and he goes, "Indie." And he says it the wrong way, and I'm like, what are you talking? I look at it, sure enough, the numbers swapped, and first call I made after I called up Bluehost to now buy the Dyslexic Indie Advocate site was my second call was to Chuck to rib him and be like, remember that business card, buddy? Chuck uses like a magnifying glass on my books now because he knows he has that one that I hold up. He'll be like, I think it's good. And I'm like, is it business card good or is it non-business card good? But I mean, Chuck, he will talk to you. He deals with my dyslexia. He's come up with a new way for me and him to do things. You know, he'll be someone that I trust because he understands. Like, being dyslexic, there are a lot of things people don't understand. Some editors will just get frustrated and chop up my script, and I'll go back and be like, no, you're missing it. Because they look at it that just tear apart way, and that's what every creator is afraid of. Right. That they come in where they have this college degree, and yes, they're absolutely going to make it proper, and then when you read it out loud, it sounds like crap. Mm-hmm. An editor does that sometimes. And I'd be like, does a human being sound like they'd say this, and you read it out loud, and they're like, yeah, it sounds off. And I'm like, well, how does this sound? And you read it the way you had it originally, and they're like, oh, that's better. Then why did you change it? So it does take time to get a good editor. But that's why we have to ask each other about editors. We have to have that conversation about editors. We have to talk about how important they are. And I've used an editor on every project I've ever had. Doesn't mean mistakes haven't gotten through, especially earlier in my career. I had my nephew helping me, who at the time was like 12. And I put out the book, and I finally gave it to read him. And by the way, there was one scene in it he probably shouldn't have read, and I didn't realize it was in there, but oops. But he comes back, and he's like, oh, there's a mistake. I had 4 adults in my family looking over it. This 12-year-old found it in after print. And you're like, ugh. And all you do is see the mistake now. I open up the book, and there it is. Just sitting there, you missed me.
Now, was it offset or digital?
Oh, it was digital, so it wasn't bad. It was a kablam. It was a free book. I never charged for that book. But I mean, even in the original copies of what was Fetish Babies at the time, there are 3 mistakes. And we had gone back over it. And then I brought Chuck on. Chuck wasn't the original editor. And I said, go back over this for me. And he caught a couple of my dyslexic things. It wasn't that the editor had did anything wrong. I hadn't given it back to them for that final look. So it was on me. So that was when I learned that I have to give it back. I have to pass it back. But no one talks about this in comics. They tell you to get an editor. They don't explain why. Everyone's like, well, my spelling is fine. Why would I need an editor? I can give you a dozen reasons that have nothing to do with your spelling. The top one is you're a human being.
Rob, they have never been through a 6-hour session with an editor after you give them the book to look over. They give you the edit notes. You look over the edit notes and you're like, no, that changed the whole story. Why do you think this way? And then you sit down and you have that conversation. You think it's only like a 5-minute conversation. It turns into 6 or 7 hours.
Oh,
because you have to lay the stuff out the way that a average reader think it. And sometimes you as a writer won't see it, them as an editor won't see it, or the artist won't see it that way. It's a long process, and you have to give editors that level of respect here because they're just as much as responsible for putting out a good product just as everybody else is.
Yeah, and it's so important. Like I'm sure JD doesn't use an editor, so I see him blushing a little bit. JD wants nothing with this conversation.
I actually do use an editor.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
You know what? I'm working on my very first, and I am my editor right now. I have Rob, and I sent my first 8 pages to Luke. And they say I have notes. But go ahead, JD. Sorry. I just wanted to say, because I started off with prose, and I do edit my own stuff, and I have self-published without the benefit of an editor. Maybe it's ego.
Hold on, Meredith. You haven't put out a book yet.
I haven't put out a comic book yet.
A comic, yes. I'm sorry. You've put out. We're talking comic books here.
Yeah.
You haven't put out a comic book yet. There are things that an editor can see also with your art that you might be missing. You'd be amazed when I look at art, how many times I point something out to someone and they didn't see it. Even having to sometimes you have to flip the art. because there's a magistry of how you, if you look at the thing, the way that I even do my panels, I always leave the last image on the side so it makes your eyes follow. You're dancing. And I can't explain it any different than this. You're dancing on every one of your pages. And because comics are in such an awkward fashion, because we're left, boom, I mean, right. Sorry, dyslexia. You're going right, and then you slam down in a Z fashion. That's how we read comics. It is. There's a learning curve to reading a comic, actually, and learning how to follow it. So you're dancing on the page. So there's a lot.
JD, what were you going to say? Sorry.
So how did your notes go?
I haven't gotten them back yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, except for Rob. Rob said that there was something with the narration. I think it was the dialogue.
But it's such a big change that it changes the entire story if she does it the way, not the story, but it changes her outline. So she'd have to update her outline so I could go back in and look at it again.
Gotcha. I mean, the only thing I would say is about editing is, I mean, I got a friend who works as a professional editor, and that's what he does for a living. And he was an EIC over a couple of big companies. And he works at Simon & Schuster, and he works at some of these big companies. He works at Tor and some of these big companies. And he's told me he would walk into some of these offices and he would see a book, let's say a classic book from a classic author like Isaac Asimov, on the table of an editor there as he's picking up his current assignment, because he works freelance. And he'd be like, what's going on with that? He says, oh, we're reprinting it. He says, what's up with all the, you got like 10,000 Post-it notes. He's like, yeah, those are all the mistakes we have to correct. Now, mind you, this is a book who's already been printed like 15 times and has gone through 15 different editors. It just happens. You understand? These mistakes are going to happen. They're going to get through. Nothing is perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. You might want to do perfect work. Good luck doing it to you. Just remember, you'll be spending the rest of your life chasing that comma. Good luck to you. You'll never get anything done. Sorry.
No, there's a truth to it. There's only, when you can have one or two mistakes in a book, that's a victory, believe it or not. Marvel and DC make mistakes all the time. All the time. You do the best you can, and it's really about, will the mistake take you out? Now, if you're having spelling mistakes the whole book, it's going to take someone out. If you have someone talking, if the arrow goes to the person, even if it misses and has it their ear, it'll just be a son of a bitch like me going, oh, his ear's talking, ha, ha, ha. But you know it's really the person, as opposed to the sign now pointing to the television, and you're deeply confused because you're like, wait, is that actually from the TV? Or the car is talking, you're like, wait, they have Knight Rider in this book? Like, you're wondering, because it's a comic. Maybe the car does talk. Is this a new character? Does my mind have to have a new voice for them? Is this a person? And an editor should catch. That's what I said, Meredith. Well, like, when you write prose, you can probably self-edit that. And I've been told, I mean, yeah, there might be some things, but I mean, in the end, it's minor things. But comics, there's a lot of nuances that a good editor should be able to see right away. And that's why, like, Chuck will tell you, I want the script. Give me the script before you go to art, because let me catch the problems before you go to art. Because once you're in art, it's harder to fix. And I've worked on project, the one I showed Meredith. I bet you, did you know that I cut one page into two different pages because an artist flew out on me because there was a problem? So I literally chopped up a page. When you were looking it over, did you realize that? See? Shit happens. You fix it. And a good editor, and I can be a story editor. That's the difference. I'm actually good enough to be a story editor. I can't do grammar. I can't do any of that. But if you give me a book, I'll tell you everything that's wrong with it, and I'll tell you how to improve it. And I can just look at things that way. And that's from over, like JD could do the same thing. I've been doing this. We're going on 20 years. Next year will be 20 years of me creating comics, me writing comic scripts, me being a student of the game, a student of the industry, reading as much as I can, going to panels. 2021 would have been the first year I went to a comic book panel about writing. That is 20 years later. 20 years later. 2021 would be 20 years. And in that time, you learn a lot, and you see these young creators come in here, and they're not willing to pay the price. I mean, JD have talked about this. There's a respect factor. It's like, you ever see a wrestler go to a ring and they kind of wipe their feet on the side before they step in? That's a nod to everyone who came before them. And these new creators come up with an idea, and they're just going to do it their way. And I even made a mistake earlier in my career. I lettered in a very unique fashion. I can letter like Marvel and DC. I have gone over and like people can, when they see me letter the right way, and Meredith saw a lot of different lettering tricks I can do. I know how to letter like I could do Marvel or DC in a day. I have some trouble with bubbles because I won't use prepackaged bubbles. There's just something about it, and I don't have the artistic skill. So all my bubbles are very by me through a computer screen. But, you know, that's just a personal thing. I can rip off, like everyone else, the bubble packages that you can buy and use someone else's bubbles. You know, and there's nothing legally wrong with it. If I'm going to do lettering, I like it to be my own bubbles. I like them to, and I've gotten better through the years with my bubbles.
Well, you know, going back to editing, and again, you know, basically what I'm trying to do is create this 8 pages so that I can submit it to an anthology or, you know, the 3x3 through Terraform. And that still has to be vetted and everything. I'm still, you know, I want to finish up the first 8 pages of the script so that I can send it to an artist. And so getting this feedback, but this was my 4th edit with me doing it. And it started off as a story. It started off as prose. And then I kind of separated it out into script. And then it was like, okay, the more I'm learning now, I'm understanding more about the different panels, the pacing, you know, understanding where you want to have more of a cliffhanger on the odd page because they have to turn the page. You have to give them a reason to turn the page. So all of these things I'm trying to take into effect and going, okay, that has changed the prose into the script, which looks nothing like it. It looks nothing like it. And I got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm on my 4th edit. I'm actually happy for it. As a writer, anybody who does any kind of writing, when you're happy with something, there's probably something wrong with it. But we don't want to admit it. We don't want to admit it. And I was just like, what do you mean? And so I had stripped so much of the narration out of it because in my head, I see those panels. I see what it's going to look like without even getting anything from an artist. And I'm like, oh, shit, I got to put that stuff back in. You know, what's that going to look like? And at some point, I have to realize that, okay, I have to let the baby go. I have to cut the umbilical cord and just say, you know, if I want to create something, because I could edit. I can edit something to death. And I've done that with several of my books where they're still collecting dust because I don't want to look at them anymore. I don't want to get to that point with this. You know?
Meredith, to what you're saying, I got to follow up. You've seen the other side of it. You've seen me rip into a story, point out everything that was wrong with it, and you saw the reaction that came next. I want to talk about that. When someone's editing your book and they actually give you feedback, they actually care enough to tell you what's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to shut up and listen. And I that's why I'm always nervous about giving feedback with edits, because people don't want it. When someone gives me a book to review, what they're really saying is, I want free publicity in your name to say that you like it. Or when you're working behind the scenes, oh, tell me how great I am. I'm sorry, you have fundamental problems. So do I on some of my first drafts. And when someone points it out, my editor points it out. When Chuck points something out, there's 1 or 2 answers he gets. Oh, damn, let's fix that. Or 2, explain it to me. I want to know from your point of view, why is this a mistake? And obviously the let's fix it, or the, hey, that's I screwed up as a writer. And there was a moment I could have done better. And I'll tell you, we're in Cat Dad number 2 because it used to go through Advocate Comics, and I'm sitting down with him and Bobby Gregory, and we're all getting together and we're all talking about it. And he noticed something that was in the script for a while, and no one had caught it until that moment. Like JD said, we just fell on it, and it was like, ooh, this is a moment where it does not translate well, and there could be 1 out of 100 readers who will get that moment. Hey, this doesn't fit the way it should. Could have been passable, but instead we went back, had it relettered, had it changed, even changed a little bit of the art to go with it, and it was fixed. And that's why you go through this process. For anyone who thinks you write a script, hand it to an artist, and then that's the end of it, you're going to have a moment where you're going to have to go back and rewrite your script because things were screwed up. There is a long process. This is, like Joe said, meetings after meetings, hours and hours of debate and deliberation about this.
Yeah, and I have to say, when you said that, like, it's a little bit disconnected. You know, you should add some more of the narration in it. And I'm like, screw you, Rob. You know, I stripped all of that out. But you didn't see the 3rd edit or anything. And I'm like, okay, I had to take a day and look at it again. And today, you know, when I finish up my errands and stuff, when this show is over, I'm gonna be looking at it again for the 5th time. And again, I'm at the point now where I feel like it's close. It's close, and I want to finish up that next round of edits before I send it out to an artist, because I have to be aware also that if I'm extending the narration, it's going to make those boxes bigger and it's going to shift the art. And those are things that I never had to consider as a prose writer, you know. But I love this process of learning comic books and trying to get it from the ground up and doing it right. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. Most definitely not. But I want to do my best to learn it and put the best thing out there, you know, so that I'm coming out of the gate and saying, you know, I am standing on the shoulders of giants who have gotten me this far through craft, through work, through mentorship and things like that. I am calling all of you guys giants. If you've put out books out there and you've been well received and you've been through this process, you know, you are the giants out there. And as a new creator in this medium, I definitely appreciate it. And anytime that I can sit with any of you and learn from you, you know, that's where my passion is. I love learning, and this is exciting for me because it's something new. I've never done this before. I mean, I've done bits and, you know, parts of it. I've been in publishing. You know, I've done layouts and things like that when I worked in newspapers, but to kind of combine all of that together is really taking all of the skill set that I have to do this one product. And it's very exciting. And I know I probably want to puke the first day that I put it out there in public and say, please, you know, will you like this? You know, that's scary.
All right, we do have to actually get on to the next topic, but this one was a good one. And remember, this all started just because Cat Dad and Supermom, congratulations to the team behind it, got picked up to be part of Scoot, which is part of Scout. And the one thing I will say is that no matter when you get a publishing deal, I can't stress this enough. Don't go out there and celebrate it too hard. It's just the beginning. That you did not win anything yet. You just got a leg up in the race. There's so much more work to be done. So try not to hurt your hand patting yourself on the back. Don't make it such a big deal because you still have to win over the fans. It's just a moment that gets you closer to bigger goals. So be humble about it. Don't go out there and because I've seen some other creators go out there and talk heavy about it, and then you never see them release a book, or they do release just one book. It takes a lot more. Like, you acknowledge it, you know, behind the scenes, thank everyone for the opportunity, and then prove to them what you're going to do with that opportunity. Show them how hard you're going to work and get to work. Because the ultimate goal for everyone, if you're here for Hollywood, I can't help you as much because I'm just not geared that way. But if you're here for making comic books, then you're here to get fans. It's all going to come down to getting fans. So there's two types of creators, the ones who want fans and the ones who want to make money. You have to decide who you are. And if you're there to get fans, a publisher is going to get you to more audience, and then you can work harder, earn that. And if you're lucky, you can make a living at this. If you're here for money, make boob covers. Make boob covers. That's where the money is right now. For now, go out, make your alternate cover, make your character you know, naked on the cover, you'll make money. Go make storyboard comics. You know, do you? It's an open industry. Do what you want to do. You know, be you, but you know, don't celebrate successes. I don't want to see another guy tell me he made $10,000 for a half naked cover. Congratulations. Yes, you made money, but you also paid an artist $500 for that. You also did this, and that. You know, I've seen your campaign. By the time it's done, it's not that impressive. Nothing's impressive as 1 million fans showing up to fill something at San Diego Comic-Con. I don't know about the rest of the people in the room, but that's my goal. Getting to the point where I fill not an arena, like a New York Comic-Con panel where it's like the big room, the big hall, you know? That's
Yeah.
my goal.
He wants a Hall H experience.
Well, we don't have all H's. We have the
Well, not in New York, but I talk about in San Diego.
yeah. But good comparison. That's what I want. I want to fill a hall full of people who want to hear about a book I created. That is my goal. Connecting with that group of fans. Money's money. I could win the lottery tomorrow, and money wouldn't be important. I'd still be doing what I'm doing.
Mhm.
You know, and JD. You know that's true. He's out there hustling, busting his ass. 10 years for Joe down there. 10 years of doing this. You know, and we've seen in that 10 years, Joe has seen these kids come in and go because all they wanted was that Hollywood. They made one comic and they wanted someone to part the seas and say, welcome. Dude, one comic? Settle down, Beavis. Settle down. Let's see how many people return for issue number 2. Because there's a big wake-up call when people launch that Kickstarter for issue number 2. And Auntie Ann doesn't put $200 for that thing because she was supporting you. There's a reality moment. So be humble is the point here. Be humble. Always remember, everyone goes up and everyone comes down in comics. You're always going to get fired in comics. So if you're humble, you'd be amazed how far that goes. So second story today, Spawn creator pays tribute to Chadwick Boseman with upcoming covers. I like it. There's not a lot we can talk about with this, unfortunately, you know, because if anyone had anything to say against it, I don't think I'd be comfortable with it being on the show right now. So if you don't like Chad, shh. So we'll move on to number 3. And we have a tie, it looks like. We have a tie, so you guys get to be the tiebreaker because none of you people voted this weekend because, it was a crazy weekend, and I wasn't about to share anything and have anyone try to make comments on things because, you know, you'll share something and one person will be like, well, you know, because of this is going on, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, what the hell are you even talking about? We're voting for a headline. No one mentioned that. What is wrong with you? So
what is the third one?
The third, you get to pick 3 and 4. So everything has one vote at this point here. So you guys get to pick. All right. So as a matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to make you all vote right now. That's right. Let's take a bump because we haven't done a bump right now, right?
Right.
We have not.
We have not done a bump. You do a bump, and I'm going to give everyone in the room a chance to vote right now so we can get this solved right now.
All right. Well, our background is going to change a little bit because I'm going to get into the geek speak. We're going to play a bump. You guys head over to Facebook.
Oh, don't ruin it. It looks so beautiful. No, I'm kidding.
Playing a bump. Hold on a second here. Let me find it.
Oh, private chat, guys. Private chat. Get the link.
Yep.
Okay, prior chat. Okay, give me a second here.
And here we go. This is a shout out to Mobile Edge. Check it out. MobileEdge.com has award-winning products with innovative features and contemporary, edgy designs that empower you to look sharp and travel smart with your mobile tech. Your beloved, not to mention expensive gaming gear and mobile tech devices are an extension of you, so give them the protection and style they deserve wherever you go. Find them at MobileEdge.com and protect your tech with Mobile Edge. Bring it on. Hey Geek Insiders, Mobile Edge has a special coupon code for our dedicated listeners. Get 25% off your Mobile Edge gear using coupon code GEEK25. That's GEEK25. Geek out. Okay, and we're back.
All right. Is everyone voted?
Yeah.
I voted
All right.
at least one.
Yeah, I voted for one. The other ones I'm not very well versed on, but can talk about it.
All right. Well, let's look at how it changed. I was doing something else while you guys were doing that, so I didn't even look. All right. Let's see where we're at. Screen share, because I, of course, like an idiot, got rid of it because you know I have brain farts all day long. All right. So there we go. Comic book advocates. You know, Meredith will understand this. When you have so many tabs open, you start going crazy looking for the one thing. And here we go. So let me do the quick update. Oh, I think I'm in the wrong screen, of course, because that's the old screen. Hold on. So annoying. So annoying. There it is. All right, here we go. Let's do the reload and see what happened while the voting took place. So here we go, and we'll probably have a new playing field. We do. Cat Dadden's kept the top thing. Guano Guy for President. Ooh, that's a good one. A special series. And what is a contract? Actually, the Spawn one got kicked out. Still a nice thing to acknowledge, but there wasn't much to talk about that. So let's do Guano Guy for President. Have you guys seen what's going on with Guano Guy?
Mm-hmm.
Someone's got to say no or yes.
No.
No, not really. He was on with us on Thursday, but he didn't really talk about the for president deal here.
So the character that Mark Darden has come up with has suddenly decided, and I think I'm spelling his name wrong.
He has thrown his hat into the ring as president. At least he thinks so. But really, it's a Kickstarter, and yeah. So he's on his platform. You know, like, hey, the Guano Guy wants you, and running for president. We're like, no, Guano Guy, no.
Yeah. So the character itself heard about a campaign. Oh, I'm running a campaign. So I actually tweeted that to Trump today. I figured, how mad could he get about this? We're going to see. Because, I mean, he's in a hospital right now. He's bored. He's going to see Guano Guy's running for president now against him. If he attacks Guano Guy, it just helps Mark Darden. If he giggles at it and makes him feel better, then it's a win. I would love to see him come out in the middle of the hospital right now. Just, I heard about Guano Guy running for president. Who told him he could run for president? Who said it? Who said it?
Well, the last election, wasn't it D's nuts? Why not Guano Guy this one?
Why, Meredith? Why take us back to that dark period?
I know, sorry.
But this is an interesting idea. It's a cool ad campaign that makes fun of the current situation. Because I know a lot of people are talking about how hard it is to crowdfund right now. And I'm not saying that I'm Nostradamus, but I do know a guy who looks exactly like this, who warned that this was going to happen for the election season. And I told people to be very careful about crowdfunding in October and November because of the divisiveness that was going to be happening. And sure enough, look at how bad it is. And I have friends, people I really respect, literally attacking each other. I plan to be on social media as little as possible for the next month because I don't want to see my friends fight. I mean, you could post something innocent and people are twisting it into something that it's not. You know, I've had things where I said, tell me something that you really believe is great about yourself. And people like Meredith said something smart-ass and funny. Some people took it real serious. And then one person said that I'm smart enough to vote for X and everyone else is basically stupid for not voting for this person. And I'm like, why? This was a positive moment. Why make it that? So I had to delete the comment. And it just goes to show you, you're not safe right now. People are so, and I think 2020 has affected it. I think people have been alone far too long. And I know, JD, I hope you guys are being safe up in New York. I know the numbers are starting to look troublesome up there. So, you know, can we just be nice to each other and elect Guano Guy? I think that he's a guy who will get us to the other side of it. I mean, he's the shit.
Or at least he thinks so.
Yeah. And what do you guys think? Clever campaigns help get you past the finish line?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, this might garner him some
something
more
that's only between you and your audience. Yes, that will get you past the finish line in a heartbeat.
All right, so you guys suck because you're not really talking about this. So
here's the deal. If he has some fun with this, it can actually take off. If all he's doing is doing pastiche, sorry. If all he's doing is pastiches of comics or of old wanted posters, like, you know, the traditional Uncle Sam, that sort of thing.
Oops.
Well,
I'm not so sure.
If you scroll down a little bit, there should be that one, like, if you don't support it, it could get uglier. Yeah, there it is. That one made me laugh. I saw that and I was just like, okay, what is this about? And only because I saw that and I was just like, oh my God, it's like they took a picture of my dad in a bathing suit and cartoonized it. It was scary. I know. I was just like, oh my God, throw $1 at this campaign before he loses his utility belt.
Oh, Meredith.
Hey, it's all
You're
right.
supposed to be the good one. I'm the
No.
one who's supposed to be the bad one.
But
Wait a
that's
minute. Who assigned me that? I reject that.
but that's the thing about breaking the fourth wall. It's like this stuff is fine and good on social media, but he was, on the Breakfast Bus, he mentioned nothing about Guangai for president, and to me,
Yeah.
that's a campaign within itself.
Mhm.
That's just like me with Operation Unlock Freebie. It's like every opportunity that I come out here on social media, especially live streams, I have to talk about. I want to give away free stuff with my campaign. I'm in stretch goal territory. I have to tell people, it's like, here, we're two people away, and you're about to get, for example, 2 people away. You about to get this art print for free type deal. You have to talk about it in that same veracity and everything to get people to really pay attention to it. So I don't know what more I can say one way or the other about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and we saw what you did there, Joe. Very good.
subtle
Hey,
plot.
I'm advocating, am I?
Uh,
I have to give an example.
Speaking of advocating, we'll move on to our next one, and this one's going to be an open discussion. I'm going to be making a special series. I've also created a group to kind of encourage a place for creators affected by, autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, Asperger's. I'm hoping parents even show up and have kids who have been diagnosed with some of these things, most considered learning disabilities. I personally am on the Asperger's spectrum. I have dysgraphia, dyslexia, ADHD, and depending on the day of the week, I would be considered autistic because of half of those things, depending on who's doing the spectrum analysis. So, what do you guys think about creators with learning disabilities being an inspiration for the future? Because a lot of times when I tell this story and I do comics in kids' hands and I do panels and I talk about my dyslexia, there's always one person in the crowd who goes, "I'm dyslexic." And I really want to hear, like, how do you overcome? They'll come to my table, they'll ask me for advice. How did you beat this? And I always say, editor. Tell them when they enter the room, I have dysgraphia, which means my mind, when I'm writing something, forgets words but sees the word there. You literally have to tell me to read the sentence out loud and point to each word for me to realize I'm missing a word. I'm dyslexic, which means I swap things. I can swap letters, words, and I have ADHD, which sometimes means I'll rush some of the things I do for creating. So I've learned how to handle all these things. So what do you guys think? Is it a good idea, I guess, for everyone to come together and be able to learn from each other who have these learning disabilities and these I don't want to call them, problems, because they're really not. They're manageable. They're just things that sometimes make things a little harder. But they do, each one of them can have their own benefit. Except dyslexia. I don't think that, well, actually, that's not true. I can read backwards. I can actually read things backwards, and everyone else struggles, and I can see things other people can't. So everything comes with the benefit. So go ahead, discuss.
Who wants to go first?
I'm not really sure where to begin. It's just you always have to. I know I was going to say right before I started talking. Had nice and outlined and everything. It's just you definitely want to show people that they can overcome their handicaps and they can have a little bit of fun with it. You always need that little bit extra diversity, extra viewpoints, that sort of thing, and having people in there with a definite different perspective because of their physical and mental handicaps is definitely something that should be encouraged.
Yeah. I mean,
and I know full well about the ADHD stuff. Trust me on this.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say to it is that, the more light you put on it, it's better, just to show people that, these things can be overcome,
Yeah.
I'm more along the lines, it's like, I'm up here, it's like, I like destroying what most people consider normal. To me, people with those type of ailments are normal just like everybody else. So, to me, it's like, yes, highlight them. It's like, you'd be surprised of how many people that are in this industry that suffers from that stuff on a daily basis, but we don't get to highlight that because nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to talk about what they create, but not the individual that create. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was assessed being having Asperger's when I was in my mid 30s. So I had all of this time, and people meeting me now, they're like, "Oh, well, you're a little odd, but you're acceptable. You've assimilated into the community, and oh, you must be cured and stuff like that." Anybody who knew me when I was a child, they were like, "Oh, well, that explains a lot," you know. And to the point of, these days I consider that kind of my superpower. The ability to compartmentalize. But I also have OCD. Um, I've kind of got like an all or nothing personality. It's always been that way. And so learning how to harness that and saying, okay, how can I take this and really concentrate on the one thing that I want to do? And to mentor other people and say, hey, just because you have it. And Rob and I, we've had this discussion, when people maybe mentioned it to him, he got immediately angry. It's just like, why are you trying to, project something onto me, that I'm not, and you reject that idea. But once you open up to the idea that, hey, there are coping mechanisms and, a little bit of insight and self-reflection and things, you can really turn it around and help other people. Um, but having a group like that, I think, is amazing. I would love, I think one of the things on my wish list is to take that group and actually maybe create scripts, maybe create a series of books that talk about it in a realistic way, not talking down at it, not talking at it, but actually expressing those stories. And I think that would be really beneficial for a lot of people. Rob? Or yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Just because, yes, sort of fun having an autistic character in one of the stories I'm writing right now. He's one of the more of the emotionally distant types. So it's sort of interesting having that as a character in the story, all things considered.
Mm-hmm. And a big shout out to Fish Lee. He's writing about Tourette's.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, yeah, it's just I think it's important, definitely. And comic book black belts. My son considers aspects of his Asperger's as superpowers. I absolutely do. I've embraced that, and to the point where it's almost arrogant sometimes.
Well, keep in mind,
I'd have to settle down with that too.
Yeah, keep in mind, I was like this many when I was just diagnosed. In fact, I was one of the first cases. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's definitely really hard not to consider it. I mean, that's why I point out is hyperkinesis, just because it sounds more like a superpower. Mm-hmm. So,
I will say this to what Meredith had pointed out. When I first people talk, because people don't notice the Asperger's as much in the way I am, as opposed to when I'm writing. For some reason, I'm just going to mute you, Joe. Mm-hmm. I think that was Joe. We're good now. Yeah. For when they noticed the Asperger's, it was the way I write things, I guess, that people notice the Asperger's more than when I'm in person. And that's just years of learning social cues. I was very awkward as a teenager. I've always said it, and people never understood how awkward. And it took me a long time. I was one of those cases in New York City that fell to the wayside. I was just a problematic kid with ADHD. They didn't see the dyslexia. They didn't see anything else. And I was and New York is a promote for social. Basically, they keep you in the same class so you feel more connected somehow. But I wasn't getting any help I wanted. So when I heard about Asperger's, I was in my 30s. And I'm like, I don't need anything else. I'm good. I'm already fucked up. Can we just stop here? I don't need it anymore. But even now, because I have Jax who has ADHD and who has autism, even though they're not technically official diagnosis, everyone knows it's going to come down to that. And I have to read things, and I'm learning about clutter, and I'm a person who doesn't mind clutter. And I've always said, well, my ADHD, loud and big things are good. And it turns out, yes and no. It's good to have collages and colorful things. That's how I express myself. It's bad to have a space that's full of clutter because it diminishes my momentum to do more things. And while it doesn't necessarily affect me, because again, I might have gotten to the point where I have adapted and learned, I have to be mindful of Jax. Cleaner spaces are better for him. more organization are going to be better for him. And by default, I'm learning about myself. And maybe if I keep a cleaner space and I have less things out, I'll be able to focus better. But like you're saying, Meredith, there's hyper focus. So there are days where I can look at something and I can figure it out and I can do it beyond a point where another human being can be as dedicated to it, because it never gets boring. As a matter of fact, the longer it takes, the more I get intense about it. The other day, I had to call her into a chat room because I was experiencing it. And I was like, I can't type right now. My mind is just doing too much at once. And while we're talking, I'm doing 5 different things, and I got it all done. The only downside to that is generally hyperfocus leads to headaches and not sleeping and not eating. You forget to eat, you get headaches because you don't stop. You're constantly just pushing. And, of course, you stay up until 4 in the morning getting a project done. I was working on getting the new setup for Jaxie done last night. I wound up hurting my back. So I wouldn't stop and rest. And now today I can barely walk. So that's why I almost fell and killed myself at the beginning of the show, because I slipped on something. My legs are not exactly great today. I'm having trouble walking because of the nerve damage. So you wind up doing that stuff. So being able to talk to a group about that, I think, will be beneficial. And I love Meredith's idea with it. And it's definitely something we're going to look at it now doing and talking about it, maybe even turning some of these things into superpowers that no one's aware of. Maybe we're the first generation of super beings, and these are just what we consider side effects are really something that's going to help better. Who knows if dyslexia is going to be something that's going to help people in the future, or it's the beginning of something that being able to read code better. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know where these things are coming from. You don't know how long dyslexia has been around, because a lot of times we just called them crazy. We just said that there was a demon in their head. We don't know. So the more we know, the more we talk, the better we'll be. So let's move on to our next topics. We're actually running out of time. This has been one of those shows where everything's gone so quickly today. We've been talking. The editors got us. So the next one would be, the last one for today, is what is a contract and why do artists need them? This is from Gamal Hennessy. Amazing video. You have to watch it. I cannot stress to you all the importance of contracts.
Please get the book.
Yeah, and you don't understand, even in your messenger, putting out terms and having them send that to you becomes a contract. Why? Because they have to sign into their account. The minute they sign into their account and sent it to you, that's a signature. That does count. But I stress to you, it's better to have a written out contract, but that'll still hold up. If you type something to someone, that is legal. They will lose in court. It's just having a contract makes it neater instead of having screenshots. And especially I do mind to take screenshots, guys, because people can now remove comments from threads, so they can kind of screw you. Emails are great. Have people email you information. For me, I try to make contracts very clear. And Meredith's been in the room when I make contracts. It's about protecting yourself. It's about insulating people. And outside of a contract, you can do a lot. Like with books I'm on, I always like to team with the creator because I don't care about money. I know it sounds stupid. I know we all need money, but I don't care. I want someone invested. So I'll give away ownership, but I keep IPs. It's the one thing I do. With me, don't care if we split the money. The IP is mine. I never stop being able to play with this toy box. We'll split all the profits, but the IP continues to be mine. Unless you're an artist and you're giving me things to fill in, then maybe I'll give you some of the IP, but I will never give up a lot of my IPs unless there's big money value. What do you guys think? Contracts, Meredith?
I'm learning, and again, I spoke of this earlier, where I'm at the point where I'm looking at artists. I'm finding people who can sketch in the way that I see it in my head. And so I'm at the point now where I'm getting pretty close, and I'll probably be doing my research and asking people what does that artist contract look like to you? Is it enough to just have those communications? I personally like to have a paper trail because, cover your ass.
Yep. So important. And work for hire, guys, I need you to understand this. If you're an artist and you're working for hire, you have no claim to royalties. None whatsoever. So if you go down that road, and I've had it, and I'm a different person. Anyone I worked with who, even if they were a work for hire, something got picked up, they get a bonus check. It's just the right thing to do. Throw them some extra money for their work on the project. You don't know how much of their work influenced what happened next. It's just easy to give money to people. But as a work for hire, you're not entitled to anything. And a lot of artists get all upset about this later. Oh, well, I helped and I drew the first comic and then I just left and I decided to do something else. And they took their idea and kept making comics. You're wrong. You left the project. Abandonment is forfeit of contract. You walk away from a project, you have abandoned all rights to that project, guys. That's why you have to read these books and understand things. And that's fine. If you're an artist and you want to go do something else, respect it. Move on. Realize you done fucked up. You didn't realize what you were working on. Because there's some projects, and JD knows this, you work on them 5 years, suddenly someone notices them, and then you'll have someone who started it at year one come back and be like, wait, this is mine. No. You were done walked away. And that'll be a quick court case. But, there'll still be news about it. There'll be someone who making headlines. Oh, well, I did this. And they're going to try to cash in on that. That's why you need contracts. You need to establish it. You can't just walk away from projects. Anytime you walk away from a project and you don't finish it, you have abandoned all rights to it. I want you to know that. You agree to an issue number 2. You don't commit to issue 2, you have forfeited all rights.
Yeah.
You do. And, if you don't own the IP, you're done. And I don't give up IPs. I never do. As a creator, it's very important to me that even when I'm brought on as a writer, I want potential part of owning that IP because it is something coming from my mind. It is something I learned. If I worked for Marvel and DC, I've said it many times, I probably would never create a new character while I was there unless they were going to offer me IP rights. If you don't offer me IP rights, I'll write Batman all day long. I don't need a new character. I got tons of characters I can use. I'll write them with all the characters you give me, play in that toy box the whole time. Oh, you want a new character? Well, what do I get?
Yeah, if you're going into this for the money, that's entirely the wrong thing. That'll never happen. Specifically because you're going into it for the money. Gamal's actually a pretty nice guy. I've had him on the show. I need to have him back. Yeah, it's definitely if his book's anything like The Interview, it's definitely a must read. Definitely a must read.
Nope. All right, so now it's if anyone else wanted to add to that?
No. I mean, it's just a must. I mean, the one thing that my lawyer did, sat me down. First question that he asked me is like, what if an artist breached your contract? What penalties what penalty is going to happen? Mm-hmm. And I kind of looked at him straight. It's like, no, that's part of a contract. It's like, well, I don't want him stealing my IP and this, that, and the other. So I would, come that way. It's like, that's still not strong enough. So that aspect of a contract has to be thought about as a whole here, because what if that other party fails to meet their contract or meet a deadline or meet this? There are penalties that have to be assessed, because they just can't say, okay, I'm going to start the work 6 months later, you haven't seen or hear nothing from it, and not expect any type of penalties on their side.
As a creator, write in your contract that delays in production lead to voiding of contract and all IP rights go back to the creator. Mm-hmm. And if you paid for the art, you own the art if it's a work for hire. If an artist comes back to you and goes, oh, well, I don't like using the art. There's this thing, it's called tough shit. I paid you for it. It's my art. You don't get a say in it. Like I bought it from you, work for hire. But if it wasn't a work for hire, you do have to get permission. If you didn't buy the art, that's why I like, even if it's paying $10 for an art that someone wants to team up with you, it's easier because now you have ownership in it and you're allowed to use it. If someone works with you 50-50, then yes, they can pull their art. Doesn't matter. They can pull the art. So.
And specifically spell it out, because I tell people, if I pay for the art, the only thing that you can use is for a portfolio review. That's it. Mm-hmm. I get to do whatever I want with it. If I want to make it toilet paper, I'll make it toilet paper. But I get to do what I want because I paid you for that work.
Yep. All right. So now it's my time to pick what I want to be the story of the week. My number 5. Let's see. What else do we have? We talked about Scout as all together, and I'm going to put that on Geek Insider as an all-in-one type of thing. Some good stories here. I think I'm going to go with... Let's give some love. I'm going to go with the flying artist Jethro Morales gets hired by Marvel Comics. I think that was pretty cool, and I love giving some love. So for those who don't know, there was a Kickstarter this week. It's no longer available. That artist got picked up for Marvel Comics. How important is it that you guys, if you're not being picked up, but a member of your team is getting picked up, how important is it to you guys that that's a moment where you were working with someone talented? Do you guys think that actually ups your game? Do you think the success of someone else helps you kind of level up? And do you promote it? Do you celebrate it for them? Because, I mean, we've seen people we've worked with jump up. I mean, Bob Sally. I came in when Bob Sally, I was part of a group like Bob Sally, Chris Med, a few other people who haven't done as much. And we were all part of Buddy Scalera's comic book school initiative. He does Creators Connection. And now you're seeing Chris Med all over the place. You're seeing Bob Sally. You're seeing he does Wretches. He's a friend. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'm so sorry, dude. I'm going to look it up. But all these people were from that same kind of class when the Creators Connection started. And Wretches isn't. Hold on. Someone help me here. Continue to talk so I can get my friend's name.
Yes, you definitely celebrate it. Yeah, I mean, you always celebrate success no matter what, because the success is going to not only, if you basically be a total jerk about it, that's going to come back on you as a negative thing. And you want to try to avoid that at the very least, just for the sake of pragmatism, if nothing else. But yeah, you always celebrate everybody's success. If, that person is going to try to bring you up, and you're going to bring up that person as well. So definitely celebrate always.
Exactly, because the thing is these things roll around. I mean, they're gonna have their successes. You're gonna have your successes. You understand? One day you might be in that position. You're like, why is everybody treating me like dirt? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you treated them like dirt when they had theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So you got, look, if they do great, that's fantastic. You in some way helped out with that.
Yeah, and here we go. This is the Wretches. It's part of Scout. And oh, come on, they're not. I hate the brain farts, man, because it's not saying my friend's name. I feel like such a horrible friend right now. You guys have no idea. But I think jealousy sometimes has something to do with this, though. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
I'm still thinking about the second part of your question here.
We'll go for it.
And the second part, to me, is about your relationship to that individual, because it's like, to me, it's like, being a part of a team does not necessarily mean that you have that interpersonal relationship where you root them on from the sidelines like a cheerleader like that. And with other people you do, whether or not it ups your game really wouldn't have anything to do with it as a whole. It depends on how your relationship to that individual is. It's like, if both of you are like rivals to one another and push one another up the chain together, yeah, you're going to celebrate it, you're going to root for them, you're going to say, you know what, you got that victory this time, next time it's going to be me, and we're going to do this, that, and the other when it happens. And then there's other people, it's like, you're honestly happy to see them do well, but it has no impact on you because they was only there for like a fleeting minute for that team. So it really depends on that relationship that you have with them. It's not about being a jerk or anything about it. But if you work with people that you might see maybe like one time out of the year, or only do one project and never hear from them again, but the simple fact that you work for them and you hear that they're doing well, it's like, cool, I'm happy that they're doing well. I only have X, Y, and Z things to say about them, but it goes no further than that. While other people, it's like, oh yeah, I remember, the time that we hung out over here, after this convention, and we talked about yada yada yada, and have personalized stories. And to me, that has more of an impact on how much you celebrate that success with them.
Yeah. I mean, I think working in a group dynamic, it brings you together like family. And sometimes you love your family, and sometimes you can't stand them. But when
Mhm.
somebody succeeds, definitely celebrate them. And then you hope that the person who has succeeded remembers where they came from and doesn't become a complete jerk, because that happens too.
Mm.
Mhm.
Rob,
JD.
in private chat, I put in, is it James Roach?
Yeah, I put that. I put it in there. James
Oh,
E.
okay.
Roach or Roche? I always say Roche.
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 I could be either one, to be honest with you. I don't know. Yeah, he's another guy from that group of us, and there are other creators who are still talking about creating. It's not a knock on them. It's just they haven't gotten there yet. Just making a comic book is a giant accomplishment, by the way. But this was that group that I came up with, and I celebrate all their successes. I've seen one's gone on to Scout, one's gone on to Source Point Press. I'm amazed by these creators. I'm amazed by being in the orbit of these creators. Chris Madd's done covers all across indie comics. I support all of them, and it's a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood, and we all know each other. We all see each other, and it's hugs and it's how you doing. Not going to New York Comic Con this weekend. Typically, it would have been this weekend. This year, it was scheduled for next weekend, but usually it was the first weekend in October. I'm a bit depressed about it. I'm heartbroken. I'm not seeing my family. I'm not seeing my friends. This has been a troubling year, and this will be the first time I don't get to hang out with my friend Chris Madd. I don't get to see Bob, Sally, or James. Josh Stahl is another name that was part of us. Johnny C. These are all guys I'm coming up with. Tons of other great creators do the comics creation. I miss my family. I miss my creative family that comes out of there. And I celebrate every moment of their success because their success never hurts or does anything to my success, but it makes it better that I see the other people that I admire, because I do admire them. I admire every one of them for being who they are and for what they've done. And it makes me feel great to know these other creators are successful, that Buddy's helped us all achieve a new goal, putting us on the right path. And it's nothing but love. And I really want to get back to comics being that. When I first started in comics, it was less about egos than it is today. And I'm hoping we're going to see, because I see a lot of people this weekend, especially, in credit to the ones who stood up and said, this is ugly. This has to end. I'm not doing politics anymore at all. This is not what I want. And I think this was a breaking point for a lot of creators this weekend. I think a lot of people were like, nope, this is not okay. And we finally hit that moment where we get to kind of change course. And people really see, like, I don't want to hate someone. I don't want to be mad at someone over something that's just ugly. Go watch that social media thing on Netflix. It'll change your mind about social media. It'll make you guys realize a lot of things that you don't even know. But with that, we're going to end the program. But before we do that, we want to talk about the great people in the room. So let's go around in the way that you came in. So, Joe, you get the first.
Okay, well, I'm Joe D. McPhee. I am the creator of Amazonia AWF and Primetime Saturday Night, of which Amazonia is currently in stretch goals on Kickstarter as of right now. You can catch me on Facebook up under Joe D. McPhee, Instagram up under Silvolt, that's SILV as in Victor BOLT, Silverbolt 14 on DeviantArt. And if you want to, I also do have a YouTube channel. The episodes that I do run is called From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher, where I do comic book reviews. Every so often I might do like a drawing with Joe, but I also talk about comic book industry type stuff as well.
All right, JD.
How you doing? My name is JD Calderon. I can be found on Facebook under JD Calderon. You can find me on YouTube, where I interview independent creators and I do reviews or more suggestion pieces. And under JD Calderon, you can also see my work under the Oswald Chronicles, currently on Indiegogo. And you can also find me on TwellTalesOnline.com and the Oswald Chronicles Online.com.
All right, Jameis.
Hi, I'm James Jokum, and yeah, I'm host of Webcomics Reviews and Interviews. We're available on anywhere you find a podcast, pretty much. So, and I'm definitely available on Facebook, so come and talk.
Meredith. You're muted.
Not muted anymore. Okay, Meredith Lockwood. Head over to indievent.com, INDEEVENT. I've updated it. We've got some confirmed guests. We're going to be putting up the schedule pretty soon. We are looking for more talent who wants to participate. It is a week-long event. It is not going to be an all-day week-long event. It's going to be more geared toward the evening because we're looking for thrillers, horror, in comic books, entertainment, movies, filmmakers, pros, all that kind of stuff. We're going to have some people who are reading their flash fiction to scare you and delight you. But if you head over to indievent.com, you will be able to find contact information for me because I am the project coordinator and the keeper of the calendar. Back to you, Rob.
Actually, that's it. We're out of here. Thank you, everyone who's been here today. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 for the news. And remember to be awesome and share someone's creation today.